Welcome to episode 2 of the Send It Show. Today we are going to be talking about our personal stories about what got us into shooting, and also, I guess, a transition story of what got us into shooting, what we're shooting now. So with us today we've got Corey and we've got Rex. And Corey, go ahead and introduce yourself. Rex, you'll introduce after, and we'll just launch straight into the stories.
I'm Corey. You might have seen me on the previous episode, partner in Gallant Bullets. Been shooting since I was 12. Shot a lot with my family, so just here to partake in the conversation.
Right on. Yeah, I'm Rex with Max Effective. I'm super excited to be here with Gallant Bullets. I love what these guys are doing. Super excited to get to talk about guns and why we love them.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to have you, man. So I met Rex, 3 months ago? 4 months ago? A few months ago, just doing the long-range stuff. Just started talking about bullets, and that was it. Hey, we got bullets. You want to come see them? I was like, yeah, I want to come see bullets. I think that's the great thing about shooting is it gets you together with guys and girls that love to shoot, and just kind of gets you, and you can share stories, you can shoot the shit, and just kind of gives everyone, I think, a common bond. That's what I love about it. As far as what got me into shooting, I think I was 8 or 9. My dad started teaching me how to shoot with a handgun with a .22. And with a rifle. I honestly don't remember what brands they were. Just every time I'd go up to Oregon, where he lived every summer, we'd shoot. He also had a black powder rifle that was really sick too, but of course he'd load it a quarter charge, so so it doesn't blow my shoulder off when I'm a kid. But we used to. One of the earliest memories I have is we'd shoot those into phone books, and then we'd have fun pulling the slugs out, right? Just because I don't know, it was a great thing to do, but. Did you kind of talk about what got you into shooting originally, or?
Yeah, so I grew up shooting with my dad. My mom never really into it. I've got a little sister. She was never really into it. She's a lot younger than me, so usually it's just me and my dad growing up. I grew up in northern Arizona, in the middle of a big old forest, so we just drive a little bit out of town and we could shoot. Mm-hmm. I started when I was young, dude, cap guns in my diaper. Right? One of my favorite pictures is I'm standing there, I've got a cowboy hat on, no shirt, Snoopy underwear or something, and then I got my cowboy gun belt on with snap caps. I'm ready to rock, right? I'm 3. So it started
changed.
Yeah, it started super early, and I still run around with a Glock in my underwear just cause.
Just naturally.
Why not? Yeah.
With the cowboy hat.
Yeah, usually cowboy hat.
Do you close the blinds or do you leave them open?
Usually leave them open.
Yeah,
right? You gotta let all the neighbors know.
Well, you want the neighbors to know you're crazy, right?
Yeah, so I grew up shooting early.
Nice.
The first gun I ever owned was a Colt Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
My dad gave it to me when I turned 8. Still have it today. I buy and sell a lot of guns, and that's one of the few that I still have. So it's kind of neat to have my first gun still.
Nice.
But yeah, we grew up just going out into the forest. Lots of cinder pits around, so that's usually where everybody shoots. Unfortunately, they get all trashed up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we just grew up shooting outside of town, shooting .22s. Most kids start on .22s.
Right.
I remember the first time my dad gave me one of his big guns. Right.
Yeah.
I think it was a 1911, which is kind of dumb to give a kid a 1911, right? I'm
how old?
I'm probably 10, not old enough to hold it, right?
Yeah.
So he loads one round and he's okay, being real safe with me, standing behind me, and I hold it out and I'm bang, and it flies up and straight up out of my hands in the air. He jumps up and grabs it. It's all safe because there's only one round in it, but straight up out of my hands, and he's we'll put that one away for now.
It's for pure entertainment.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my dad got I think it was a Mac 90. It was like a variation of an AK, and I was 12 maybe at the time. And this was the first time I saw an actual rifle cartridge, because up until then it was all .22s. And I remember thinking how huge this thing was, and it's now dealing with rifle rounds all the time. It's whatever. But I remember just being so in awe of how big this bullet was when I was a kid, and I couldn't shoot it obviously, but I was whoa. And so my dad kind of demonstrate this thing. We went out, he lived on 80 acres. So we went out to this spring, and he just popped off 10 rounds right into the water. And remember when you could start to hear again, because we didn't have ear protection, you'd still hear mud and water falling out of the sky, and I was just wow. It was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
That was good, man. Good times. Let's switch, I guess. Let's talk about what got you guys into shooting, what you're shooting today. So Corey, I think you're more like a self-defense type shooter.
Yeah, for the most part, I enjoy shooting, and I go out every now and again, but not nearly as much as I used to, man. I remember growing up having like a 20 gauge shotgun, go out shooting skeet and trap all the time, and that was awesome because you went out and you could press the button and like shoot off the clays.
I remember going and doing some nights with you guys.
Oh yeah,
where you did the competitions. Those were fun, man.
Yeah.
Those were good nights.
Yeah, night clays are awesome. And then shooting 22 rifles and, just a barrage of handguns. I don't even remember what they were when I was a kid. But nowadays I have like a 40 cal Springfield XD, and I have my personal carry, which is like a 45 XDS. And then I still have the 22 rifle, the 20 gauge shotgun. I enjoy shooting the 20 gauge shotgun still because 12 gauge is just like, it gets old quick, right? You got to switch shoulders. Maybe I'm just a pansy, I don't know, but 20 gauge is a lot of fun. But yeah, most of all, it's mostly concealed carry. Go out to shoot, to practice, to whatnot.
Yeah, I think the whole 20 gauge versus 12 gauge, man, I can definitely feel like I like shooting 12 gauge personally, but 20 gauge is fun just because it's so easy and you can unload, man.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like the difference between like a 9mm versus like a 40 or a 45, right? For me, like the 9, you can put them all on like. You can just unload it right there where you want. Like, I don't know. There's just something that's fun about like not having to practice as much control as you normally would.
Well,
I'm not saying that you're getting all crazy, but you know what I mean? You can sit there and just unload without it having like kicking you around. I don't know. I think
like shooting the 22, right? Shooting a 22 rifle is like a lot of fun if you're out shooting just for targets. And it's cheap, right?
Yeah.
Because shooting gets expensive.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
So...
All right, man. And what about you, Rex? What do you shoot most often these days?
It depends on. I mean, this is like a long story.
Go for it,
So
bro.
it depends on how into it you want to get.
We got plenty of whiskey, so take it away.
Keep drinking. All right. So growing up, like I said, it was just me and my dad, and he had this big old Fort Knox safe in his office. And I remember it was like Christmas morning. Every time I'm like, "Hey, Dad, can we open your safe today? Can we take a look? Can we look at the guns?" Like, "Dad, let's look at the guns." He's like, "Okay." So he'd open up the safe and he'd pull everything out. I'm just like, kid, like just drool, right? And I remember this probably when I was like 16. I was in high school, a little bit more into guns, and I started like realizing like all the cool stuff that my dad had, right? He's got an M16. He has a mini Uzi. He's got a full-size Uzi. Like, he's got some pretty cool guns that like aren't just your average guns. And I started being like, whoa, my dad's like pretty legit. Like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I remember I came home from school one day and he's got this big old sniper rifle. And I'm like, "Dad, what's that?" And he's like, "Oh, son, this is an Accuracy International AW rifle in 338 Olapua." And I'm like, "What the freak is that? Like, that's so cool." And like, I can still remember it today. Like, it's in this green case and it's like the old Accuracy International rifle, right? It's like a legit military sniper rifle. I was like, that's the coolest gun I've ever seen in my life, right? So from the time I was 16 years old, I was like, that's what I want. I want an Accuracy International rifle, right? And then, I'm in high school, I'm dating girls, I'm like doing my thing. I spent 2 years in Russia on a mission, so didn't shoot there at all. I saw plenty of dudes walking around with AKs, but like luckily didn't get shot at, so that was good.
Yeah, that's good.
Came home, I'm in college, and like I started shooting again, but in the back of my mind, right, I'm always like, long range is always in there. And I don't think we ever even shot that AI that my dad had.
Oh, really?
But I always knew that I wanted one, right? My dad was more of a collector, right? So like when we would go shoot, it was because like I wanted to go, but like he's got his ivory grip Colt 45 long rifles or long Colts in his safe that like he doesn't shoot, and he's got his Wyatt Earp outfit in the closet that he doesn't wear, and he's got a Sharps rifle that's never been fired. So like my dad's the guy that like pulls his guns out, wipes them down. He has like a whole line of unfired rifles, and I'm like, you're weird.
I know. Like, of course, people like collecting things, so I get it. But like, man, I only get guns that I want to shoot.
I'm starting to think our dad should like hang out sometime, because my dad's got like black powder rifles that like sit in the corner. They're probably, if he kept them up, would be worth like a decent amount, right? Yeah. But like he doesn't even know what they are. Yeah. He's like, I bought them on some auction, and I like them. Yeah, because I like them, but
they're more like centerpieces, right?
Yeah,
they're like display pieces, really.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. So I go on my mission to Russia. I come home. I'm in college, right? I'm up at the University of Utah, and I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm sitting up there in engineering school, and I hear these two cats behind me talking about guns, and my ears perk up, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, And at this point, like, I don't even think I own my own gun, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think I still have my little Colt 22. I had like an AR, and other than that, like, I had never purchased my own gun. And I hear these guys behind me talking about something guns, and I'm like, oh, after class I turn around, hey, you guys are talking about guns, and they're like, yeah, we're on the University of Utah pistol team, and my jaw hit the floor.
You're like, what?
I'm like, we have a pistol team? What?
Right.
So like that
Man, I
day,
didn't even know that.
I followed the kid to the professor that is like the coach of the pistol team, and he teaches a pistol course that I guess technically to be on the pistol team you're supposed to go through the class, and I just like skirted that because whatever. So anyway, like next thing I know, like I'm on the pistol team, right? So we're shooting Olympic style pistol events. So all the pistol events that are in the Olympics. So free pistol, which is like 50 meters. They're all 22s. Well, the normal pistols are all 22s. And it's like 50 meters, and like you have this gun that like you put on like a glove, and it like wraps around your hand, and it looks like a barrel, and it's got like a 1 ounce trigger on it, right?
Oh, dang,
and
dude.
you stand there one-handed, and like you shoot the thing 50 meters at like targets like this, and your groups are like that at 50 meters with a pistol,
Oh, wow.
right? They're totally nuts. They don't look like guns, right? But it's like super accurate, super precise, right? So you got free pistol, you have air pistol, so 10 meter air pistol, same thing, slow fire, ultra precise. You got like 5 minutes per shot in the competition. You're shooting competitions like 60 rounds, maximum 600 points, and you're scoring like averaging all nines or something. You're getting like 540,
Oh, wow.
and you're putting these little tiny groups, right? So I get hooked on this idea that like guns can be these ultra precise machines, right? And my first year on the pistol team, we qualify for nationals. I get to go to Fort Benning, Georgia, compete in the collegiate nationals. I was like super excited. I was like, this is so cool. You could like, pistol's a sport just like basketball is, right? I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever, right? So at that competition, I got bunked with like a different coach who's the NRA high power coach here in Salt Lake, right? So on the whole plane ride over there, we're talking about 600 yard and 1,000 yard competition shooting. And I'm like, whoa, that sounds super cool. And in the back of my head, right, I'm thinking, Accuracy International, Arctic Warfare.
Right.
So, I'm picking his brain, taking my engineering background, and I'm taking the experience that I'm getting on this pistol team of being ultra accurate, ultra precise, which is cool for you guys, right? Gallant bullets, same thing. Ultra accurate, ultra precise. I'm picking his brain just about everything about long range, and I'm flying home from this competition in Georgia thinking, I'm done with this pistol crap. Like, let's bring on the long range.
Right.
So I come home and I buy my first gun, right? Remington 700 Police. I was like, this is the coolest gun ever. I buy all my gear black, right? I'm like, I'm going to be like a SWAT guy, right?
Naturally,
So
yeah.
I've got a black shooting mat and a black rifle and a black t-shirt and a black everything. I
Amazing.
go out into the desert, right?
Where
Not
nothing's
knowing
black.
what the heck I'm doing. I hang up my target. I go to shoot, and it's probably, after school, so probably June, July sometime. So, Utah, 100 degrees outside. I go lay down, I get all set up, I'm shooting a little bit, I go get a drink, I come back to my rifle, and it burns my face.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're done with black, right? So I come home, and I've got this buddy, and he'll take credit for my gun obsession, because he taught me that you can sell guns. I never knew that, right? So
Right.
I'm like, whoa, I don't have to keep this forever. Okay, I can sell it. Cool. So I ended up selling all of my black stuff, and I switch over to tan. So I tan everything, and I go out the next time with all my tan gear, and I'm like, oh, this is really pleasant, right? So kind of that transition from being on the pistol team at the University of Utah, hanging out with that long range NRA high power coach, coming home, I just ended up falling in love with long range shooting.
Right.
You've done it. We hooked you up with a Tika T3 CTR.
Yeah.
And I think that first time when you go out there and you lay down with this gun and like you're hammering steel at 600 yards. It's like instantly super gratifying, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can shoot paper all day long, and it's just like, whatever, you look at your little groups through your spotting scope, and you're like, oh, cool, all those bullets are touching. But the second you hit steel, you're on your gun, you fire, you see the bullet hit the target, right?
Right.
You manage your recoil well. You see the bullet hit, you're like, that was a hit, and your buddies are like, bull crap, and then, boom, the steel
Boom,
goes off,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, nice, dude. It's like the coolest thing ever. So for me,
Yeah.
once I started doing that and teaching myself the skills, required to consistently hit steel at 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 1,200 yards, it's just super gratifying for like my engineering brain that's always trying to, milk the most accuracy out of my weapon system, figure out the most precise way to pull the trigger, figuring out how to manage this weapon system, manage myself so that I can consistently connect at long range was just super gratifying for me. So that's kind of how I ended up in the current obsession that I have right now.
No, that's awesome.
Like engineering and manufacturing, it's all about driving down variation, right? And just being like the absolute, how do I make it as awesome as it can be consistently all the time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what got us, with the bullet company to the point where we're like, hey, let's go like high precision, long range rounds. We started, I think we essentially went down the same road. It's like, cool, we can make bullets, like awesome. And then we're making bullets, and it's like, well, we can make these average bullets, or we can try and make these special bullets, right? And we can make them as accurate as we want, and we can get to the point where people are hitting, half MOA groups out at 1,000 yards plus, which for me is just amazing. I still kind of find it hard to believe that we can make a bullet in our shop where they can consistently hit groups like that.
Yeah.
And I feel you, man. It's a lot of fun. And for me, it was kind of a little different. For me, it was, I started out shooting with my family and my dad for the most part and having fun like what you were talking about. And then when I left high school and I went into the Army, shooting became more of like a utility thing, right? Where it's like you're training, you're going to be shooting a lot, and then you're doing drills, and it kind of almost became tedious. And after, going and doing a couple deployments and shooting a bunch and getting shot at some, it was like I kind of got burnt out a little, So I got back in like 2012. I think I took like a good 2-3 years without shooting anything. And then we started getting into this and going and doing long range with you, which was actually the first time. I mean, I've shot long range, obviously. I've never done it like at steel. The long range I did, the longest range I did was like in the Army, we did like 300 yards in the field.
Yeah.
And then the other longest range is, like when you're out actually down range and you're shooting at people that are shooting at you. And generally, for me, when we're up in the mountains, it comes from a bit further away. At least it feels like it comes from further away.
Yeah.
But I never really had like a rifle where I can take the time to see if I can hit, and if I can get it as accurate as I can. So yeah, that first time you connect with steel out at like, 500-600 yards, that is just a ton of fun. And we even took Amanda out, and that was her first time really shooting. I think she went out to 3, but seeing her hit steel at 3, and she got like super excited too.
Yeah,
and I think that's like the best part about shooting for me is kind of like what we talked about with the bond, right? You go out there and you have fun, and you can turn it into a family event, or you can turn it into an event with friends. And you just go out there and you shoot and you enjoy your time together, And I think that's like the greatest thing about it.
Oh, I was pumped about hitting steel at 300 yards. I took my AR out to Front Sight in Nevada, and that was like the first time I hit steel doing their rifle course. And they do like 50, 100, and then all the way back to 300. And there's a whole bunch of people lining up and laying prone and shooting these steel targets. And most of them had scopes. The guy that was scoping for me had his scopes. And so he's like, yeah, you hit it. And I was like, what? Ding! I was like, oh, sweet, I did hit it. But yeah, that's the most gratifying sound ever. Yeah. And to hit it, like, for me, to hit something that far away with a 223 with a red dot, like no scope or something like that, I was like, that is awesome. Like, that was cool.
It's just great.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, once I started doing long range, and once you start connecting on steel and realizing that you can calculate a firing solution, that I can pull my gun out of my bag, get it all out, get my gear out, range a target, and I can calculate a solution that I've, 95% confidence that I'm going to hit this steel that's 6 inches at 600 yards.
mm-hmm.
Like, that's super gratifying. So for me, once I really got into long range, like all my other stuff just kind of like, melted away. I was like,
Right.
obviously the Olympic style pistol was like first to go because that's like not exciting, right? You're
Right.
like, okay, I'm going to take 2 hours and fire 60 shots at this target 50 meters away, right? It's like not that exciting.
Right.
So I was like, that was gone. And then like ARs, for me, like I was never super in love with ARs. I didn't have a military background like you do. So I wasn't like ultimately familiar with this AR. I wasn't, intimate with it. I didn't feel super comfortable. I know how to run one.
Right.
And I can shoot one in a match and stuff. But I was never super in love with it. So, once I started doing long range, like ARs out the window. And then, I was still doing some concealed carry stuff, and I still do. But to me, like the most fun is with the long range.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, back to the accuracy international, right? It's in the back of my head. Buy, sell, and finally, probably 3 years ago, I landed my first accuracy international rifle. I was like so excited. I was like, I got the rifle my dad had, except
Right.
it's cooler because it's new.
Right.
Yeah. So like I ended up with an AI, and I've been shooting AIs, pretty solid for the last quite a few years.
Nice.
And bounce between AIs and custom rifles, and continue to buy, sell, trade here and there.
Right.
Finally to the point where like I have 2 guns now. I have my AI that's got like multi-caliber barrels and everything, and now I have like a different gun that's a custom rifle built by Spartan Rifles. And it's cool to have both of those systems and see how different they are, but how cool they are at the same time in their own kind of respective ways.
Yeah.
Well, it's always about how far you can push it out, right? Like, oh, cool, I can like hold this 95% of the time, 600 yards.
Yeah.
How can I take this further? How can I push it even further?
Right.
And a lot of that's caliber, right? We're talking about 20 gauge versus 12 gauge. And for what you're doing most of the time, your 20 gauge can do everything you need your 12 gauge to do, right? Shooting skeet, trap, whatever. It's kind of like that with long range, right? You can get a 338 Lapua or a 300, all these crazy new calibers that they're coming out with all the time. 28 Nosler. I've got a 28 Nosler. It's pretty cool, but like, for most of the stuff that you do or want to do with a rifle, it's, you can sit there and try to shoot as far as you can. And for a while, I really focused on that. I was really focused on all the gear and guns and all this stuff. And then I started shooting matches, right? And I got back to that competition mindset of shooting is a sport, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I probably shot my first match in 2013, somewhere in there, right, with one of my early guns. And I remember I had a
This is your first long range match?
my first long range, and I remember I had a Leupold Mark IV scope. It was like a 3-15 or something, and it had MOA turrets, so my clicks were in minutes, and my scope was in mils. So mil-dot scope with minute turrets, which is completely dumb.
That's messed.
Right?
Yeah,
like, I have no idea why Leupold thought that was a good idea.
Man, so you like always taking out a calculator?
Yeah, you're like,
how
okay,
much
I gotta convert because I can't tell. So luckily in a match, right, you're like, oh, I just missed by 1 mil, so I gotta hold up a mil.
Yeah.
So based on that, what you see in your scope is what you get downrange, so you could really calculate, but you couldn't be like, oh, I need to click a mil because there's no mil on your scope, right?
It's
Which is
essentially
totally
like
dumb.
Kentucky windage at that point,
Yeah.
right? You're just like, pop, okay, where was the hole? All right, I'm just gonna a little bit
gonna
higher.
hold. So
Yeah.
so shooting a match that was like super hard. So like, don't ever get a scope that's like that. Luckily, like all the manufacturers have kind of caught on. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody makes one like that anymore. So
I don't even know why they would.
luckily,
but,
you can
yeah.
kind of choose what you want. But
Yeah,
I remember that was like super dumb.
Yeah, that sounds like horrible.
It was a rough match because I got into long range shooting by myself, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody that did it. There weren't 500 Facebook groups that, like there are now.
I think there's about 500.
There's
yeah.
so many. I swear I get added to like 2 new ones every day.
Yeah.
And
Just
I
everyone's
get,
starting.
I get
Facebook
like
groups.
10 Facebook requests from guys that I don't know that see that I have a gun, right? And I get added to all these groups. But back when
you
I
become
started,
you become like a fanboy on Facebook.
yeah,
Which is funny because like normally it's like chicks get added, like all these guys are adding chicks, right? The minute you
Like,
start
guys are
posting on
adding
stuff-
guys.
Like since I've started
yeah.
doing all this stuff with Gallant bullets, I get more dude requests
Oh,
from
yeah.
like, I've never even met these guys before, and I'm like,
Yeah.
who the is adding me? Because I usually only add people that I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I have like, are these fanboys now? Like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh my gosh, you got guns? Like, let's talk.
Yeah, it's super funny. So yeah, when I started long
So
range,
good.
it was like there was no Facebook. It was like me and Sniper Side. So Sniper Side's a forum. It's been around for a long time, and that's like where I got all of my information from.
It's still pretty big too.
Yeah, there's like a buy-sell forum on there. So pretty much every gun that I ever sold was like on Sniper Side, right? Some guy's like, I want your gun, and you send it to his FFL dealer.
Right.
They take care of all the paperwork, and like dude walks home with your gun, right? So super cool. So I'm like buying and selling, trading on Sniper Side like crazy. You know, finally get my AI. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. But when I started
Did
shooting
you
matches,
get your AI off the Sniper Side, or did you buy it new?
I think my first one, yeah, I bought it new from Mile High. Yeah, Randy at Mile High took care of me.
Nice.
Yeah, so you know that was ages ago, right? But when I shot my first match, I think it was the second gun. So I got rid of that black 700 Police, got my new gun, and I shot the match with that gun. So this is
Yeah.
like literally like I'm 2 months into a gun. I got my Leupold scope on there that like MOAs and mills. I like don't know what I'm doing. I didn't even know that was wrong.
Right.
I just like show up and they're like looking at me. I'm like, oh whatever, I don't care.
You're like, who's this
You know,
FNG?
I think I got either last place or second to last place.
And the
I
guy
was
that got
like,
last was so ashamed. he
That
never
was
showed up
dumb,
again.
right? Because before that, I'm shooting pistols.
Right.
I'm qualifying for national level competitions. You know, I'm like doing good. Like my name's in some NRA book because like I made it, right?
On pistols.
Yeah, on pistols. And then I
Right.
show up in this longer match and get last. I'm like,
You get
oh,
schooled.
this is dumb, right? So back on Sniper Side, like research,
Right.
and you know, buying in all my buying and selling, I ended up meeting this super close friend of mine, Brett, and we shot together, you know, for a long time, and you know, different interests. You know, he's doing my CrossFit stuff, and you know, not shooting as much as he used to. But I remember me and Brett shot together forever, right? And when you have somebody else that's into it, you're like, hey, did you see this on Sniper Side? Like, oh, check this out.
Right.
Check out these new bullets these guys are making, right?
Right.
You're like, you're learning about all the new gear, you're learning about the new guns, but more importantly, like you're out there shooting together, learning how to shoot, learning how to employ your weapon system, and learning how to like train for what you do.
Right.
So we're shooting these precision rifle matches that are anywhere from 100 yards. Most of them go out to about 1,000, but occasionally, like the Silencer Co. Quiet Riot that we held here last year, they had targets out to like 1,700 yards, right? So people are poking at those at like, you know, little 6mm cartridges, and they're hitting steel at 1,700 yards. It's it's almost a mile.
That's ridiculous.
So it's pretty nuts. So I remember me and Brett were just sitting out there like learning how to shoot these matches together, and we're going to matches and we're getting better and better and better and better. So, you know, the last 5 years, I've been shooting precision rifle matches, and you just consistently get better and better and better. Pretty soon you like look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything when I started out. Like I
Right.
was such a dork.
That's the way.
Right.
That's the way it works, though. Man.
Yeah.
I think it's the kind of the way life works in like any hobby, really, right? And I think what's great about it, and this is one of the things I've talked about in the past on like one of the morning coffee shows, was like just starting, right? Like a lot of people, I think what they do in life is they like, oh, this sounds fun, that sounds fun, this sounds interesting, and then they start researching it, but they never just go do.
Yeah.
What I like about your story is like, you just went out and did this long range competition.
Yeah.
You didn't even know what type of scope you got, right? You're like, I'm just gonna go out there, I'm just gonna do this thing, and you may get last place, but you go out there and you do it, right? And then you learn more, and that's how you grow. And I feel like you know, a lot of that's got like a life lesson in and of itself is just going out there and doing things is the way to kind of make life happen, right? There's a
Yeah.
saying that goes that life begins at the edge of your comfort zone, right? So when you're living in your bubble and you're just doing what you do on a normal daily basis, it's just like, meh, you know?
Yeah.
But when you go out and you do new things, you try new shooting techniques or new competition styles, or like, I'm going to go do long range when I've done this pistol for a long time. That's like really exciting, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that's like something that can be really invigorating in shooting is maybe if you've been shooting your whole life, but you've been shooting the same stuff, right? And maybe it loses like some of its fun.
Yeah.
Go try something else. I mean, there's like so many different versions of shooting, right? You've got normal pistol stuff, you've got shotgun stuff, you've got like trap shooting, you've got hunting, you've got long range competition shooting, you've got like 3-gun competitions. I mean, there's like so many different things that you can do. I think that's like part of the reason why I love shooting so much is like, it's like a hobby you can get into where it never gets old because there's always a new thing that you can learn about. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe when we're like 70, then we'll know like all the types of shooting. But like until then, well,
Remember
probably
that
then they'll
laser-
have like rail guns,
Yeah.
dude.
Remember that laser shooting that they thought was cool for a while? So dumb.
Yeah. Remember that one time that we actually had to put bullets into the gun, right? But you know what I mean, right? Like that's the fun of it, man.
Yeah.
You know, you go out there and you just have a good time. And speaking of time, I think this about wraps up our time for this episode. So appreciate you guys sharing your stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed hearing your story and your story. I already know your story because I mean we grew up together. But Rex, it was funny as hell hearing about. I never even knew that the whole pistol shooting with your hand.
my
I mean, that's
gosh, it's
really
nuts.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that with us. And we'd love to hear your guys' stories too. So if you got any stories you want to share, you can go on any of the social media platforms, talk about it, and we'll see you guys there. And I guess until next time, we'll see you around. Yeah.